Hi everybody and welcome to DisruptEDtv, where every little idea can make a big difference in your classroom or your school. My name is Al Cini.
I'm Joe Asamendi.
It's always a pleasure working with you,
pleasure,
Joe.
absolutely.
And we have a terrific guest on the program today. His name is Rich Hayzler, and he is the principal at Pequannock Valley Middle School, which is in Pompton Plains, New Jersey.
Yep.
Rich, it's a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank
This is an awesome opportunity. Thank you.
And plenty of ideas that people can borrow, possibly to make use of in their schools. I'm going to start with the topic that you said when you applied to appear on the program.
Sure.
You wanted to talk about leading and learning in a culture of curiosity and innovation. Is that right?
That's correct. I think it's an important time for us in education today. And we have a big responsibility. We're educating the eager young minds of tomorrow, and we want to prepare students for schools and their future that they're ready, instead of schools that we're comfortable with. And I think that's a big undertaking. It's a big task, but it's our responsibility because we're preparing our students far beyond the walls of our classroom, and they need to have the skills necessary to be ready. And so you start with curiosity and you start with the innovation piece because there's so much that you can do with kids in schools today.
That's great. Well, we're all about innovation for sure. And curiosity, one of the reasons why I was excited when I read this topic is because I know there's a lot of energy in curiosity, and engaging children in learning means tapping some of the natural energy that they have. So talk a little bit about curiosity and how you harness that energy.
Sure. I think kids are naturally curious, right? In a world of technology today, they want to know everything, and they have everything at their fingertips. But when they come into school, you want schools to be a place where they're running into and not running out of. You know, it's kind of the lead like a pirate concept that Jay Billy had talked about. It comes down to having lessons that are meaningful and relevant for kids, where they can say, how am I going to use this today? You know, what connections can I make to what's currently going on in my life? You know, and these are 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids, so that can be a difficult thing to do. But it's sparking their passion and finding out what they're interested in, particularly at a middle school level. And it begins with building relationships. You know, it starts with getting to know your kids, getting to know your staff as a leader, and creating those bonds that where kids come into the classroom and they know that they're going to be supported, they know that they're going to be encouraged, they know that if they do struggle, they're going to be picked up and say, let's go, get on my back, and we're going to learn and grow together.
Cool.
And that's where it starts. It really
So
starts
you
with
give
that
your
relationship
teachers
piece.
and students an opportunity to take risks and feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is-
I encourage it. My kind of motto is we need to embrace failure. You know, we need to get to a point where it's okay to struggle. You know, because that's where the true learning happens. It comes from that struggle. You know, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? But you want to get to a point where, hey, if I don't really know what I'm doing, where can I go to ask the right questions? Who's going to be there to support me? And create that environment that's collaborative and supportive.
It was a great question, Joe, because it leads to an important issue, and it's not just about engaging the students, which obviously is important to make them effective learners, but engaging the faculty. And how long have you been principal at high school?
6 years. Finished my 6th year here.
6 years. So let's break it down for everybody who might be watching. You started 6 years ago and you made some changes. Tell everybody who's watching what it is you saw and what it is you intended to change.
Sure. I was fortunate to walk into a great school to begin with. It was a staff that was veteran staff. They were well experienced in middle level education. I had previously worked at the high school in the district as a vice principal and a teacher, so I knew the students that were coming to us. And so it was an opportunity for me to go and work with the teachers, help them kind of pick up where they were and take it to a new level. And so for me, you know, it got to the point where I was having conversations in hallways and cafeterias and in classrooms, getting to know them and getting to know what their strengths were, what they were passionate about, and then capitalizing on that. And so the changes that I really made were more instructional in looking at how we were assessing, what types of questions were we asking, what type of technology could we offer kids, what classes. So it's looking at from everything from scheduling to how we were running our guidance department and the support we were giving our kids, to lesson plans, to looking at assessment. We opened the book on the school, and it really has transformed what we do because you have veteran staff that have embraced it. You have newer staff that are coming in with new strategies and techniques. And so it was really combining the veteran staff with the newer staff that I was able to hire in my time there in the last 6 years. And what we've been doing has just been phenomenal. You know, every time I walk into a classroom, teachers are spot on. You know, I never have to question anymore. You know, what's the objective today? What's our learning goal? it's always right there. And the teachers know it too, which is even more exciting.
You know, that's a great point. I think trying to get teachers to take the initiative and making them feel safe in that, which means if you try something and it doesn't work, we're the kind of organization that rewards and expects those things, and we move forward from there. And that's an important part of the way you lead the organization, I guess.
Well, it's important because when I first started, education had been shifting. It was the introduction to PARCC testing. It was the introduction to student growth objectives and student growth percentiles. So there were a lot of people on edge because they weren't really sure, you know, what if I take a risk, it's going to affect me professionally? And that's not what it should be about, right? It's all about our students and about our student growth. And if we feel confident with what we're doing in the classroom, students are going to grow. They're going to believe in you. They're going to believe in what we're doing together as a school. And therefore, you know, it's okay. It's okay to take those risks because you have 180 days in a school year. You know, and so you can always have another opportunity to work with the students.
Sounds like you created a culture of team building rather than a top-down management type of thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's really great.
Absolutely.
That's when the magic happens, when
Right.
everybody starts making changes in their classrooms, not because you told them to,
Right.
but because they perceived that was the right thing to do. So what started changing in the classroom environment?
Well,
as a
we
result?
we were always strong in character education, but we wanted to look at ways where we could get the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders really working together. So we started a house initiative. We broke up our school into houses, kind of like Harry Potter. There was about 7 or 8 houses throughout the building. And first year we were named after superheroes, then we were named after colleges. And we would have house days, we would have character ed days, but within those house days, the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders would get to work together. And so you had 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in one classroom doing a character ed lesson. You had them playing maybe 4-court volleyball in the gym for a team building activity. You had them solving logic problems in the media center. And it was great to see the 8th graders take on a leadership role in mentoring the 6th graders. You have 7th graders who, in a middle school experience, the 7th graders are figuring out who they are, right? And so they were able to say, hey, I can be a leader with the 6th graders, but I can also look up to the 8th graders and know that that's where I'm going to be the next year. And so it really, it's taken off. And through those house days, we set up fundraising where each house raised money for kids with cancer or the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. We did battered women's shelters. So every house would raise money, and then they feel good about that, and then it culminated with a field day. And so at the end of the year, which is coming up, our field day is May 25th, we have a big field day activity. And that can do so much for a school. Because schools, as much as they're about classrooms, these are spaces where kids spend a majority of their time. So you want them to feel comfortable there, and it's reduced our harassment, intimidation, bullying. We run programs for kids with digital citizenship during these days. So it's really contributed a lot to our school culture.
That's it. Since you brought that up, I mean, culture really is about shifting people, especially I guess the students. It's a middle school, so we've got the beginnings of some of those social interactions we might find undesirable.
Sure.
It sounds to me like you use project-based learning techniques to get the kids focused on something bigger than themselves so that they spend less time looking at each other and more time looking at an outcome they're working collaboratively on.
Absolutely. We're fortunate to be a one-to-one district, but what it really comes down to, it's creating opportunities in the classroom where kids can pursue their passions. We've started with Genius Hour projects. Don Wettrick's philosophy of innovation and learning, I think, has really taken off, and we have a lot of classes that have embraced that, where students are pursuing passions that are tied to their classroom learning, but really allow them to go outside of the school. So it's a student was raising money for a battered women's shelter. She got to go there with the money, deliver it to families. Having that opportunity as a 7th grader to take a trip into Jersey City and meet people, it was transformative for that student. We have students that were into nutrition in their health class, so they created a website of all healthy meals that kids could eat. And they posted it. Now kids go to that website, and those types of things. They weren't happening years ago.
Right.
Kids didn't have that opportunity.
Right.
And now with everything at their fingertips, and when a teacher, is there for them and challenges them and says, "Hey, go for it, and I will support you every step of the way." These are the amazing things that can happen. My choir kids, they're out there writing songs, and they go out and sing them to our senior citizen complexes that we have in town. Just phenomenal stuff. It really, really is. And then that leads into other things that you can do. And giving those students the voice and the choice to pursue their passion.
I mean, these are all things we talk about here a lot, and I know that it sounds to me like at Pequannock you don't teach to the test.
No.
But they still take tests. What kind of outcomes do you get in the test result?
We do well on our standardized assessments. I say to the teachers that, if Park went away tomorrow, I wouldn't change what we do in the classroom, because it really comes down to critical thinking,
Right.
Collaboration, creativity. Those are the things that we want to focus on every day. It may not be an entire lesson, but if you can touch upon those skills within a lesson, that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, per se, right? So when you look at our assessment results, our language arts scores have been very, very strong over the past several years, and I think that speaks to the work that our teachers do in terms of choosing reading material that kids are interested in, getting them to write about things that they're passionate about. Our math scores, our algebra students that are preparing for high school are passing at 98, 99%. So we've been able to really make transformative changes there. And the students just took the test last week, and they would walk out and say, "Man, I was ready for that." There wasn't anything on there that surprised me.
They were totally comfortable with it, and that was
and that's what you want.
and that's great. Not because they memorized a whole bunch of things before they took the test, but because they just knew the material, because they've been working with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's so critical. You mentioned in a conversation we had before the program the importance of a growth mindset, and maybe you can tell us a little bit what you meant by that. And
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the things when I started off our conversation today, we talked about embracing failure, right, and taking that risk. And when you look at a growth mindset, it's taking the skills and abilities and the talents that you have and looking to improve them. The fixed mindset is, hey, you were born with these things, and I'm not gonna go any further, right? This is what I have, and that's it. And embracing that growth mindset is taking a student and their skills, or a teacher, and taking their skills and abilities and pushing them further than they believe they can go. And then that gets into the George Kiros innovator's mindset, right? That if you want to become an innovator, how to make it new and better. So you're not just growing, but now you're making things new and better. And so it's working towards that, which is really exciting for our students and for our teachers, because I've really seen a lot of growth in our teachers as well. You've had teachers that have been teaching 20 or 30 years, and with the integration of technology, new teaching strategies, new standards, all these different things, it can become very overwhelming. But the teachers have really said, you know what, I'm going to dig in, I'm going to buckle down, and I'm going to learn this stuff. And because they see that it can transform learning. If you have that one light bulb moment with a kid in a classroom, it's amazing what can happen with these.
Well, you've created an atmosphere of engagement
Absolutely.
for both teachers and students.
Absolutely.
So a student who has a little bit of difficulty with math, let's say in 6th grade, doesn't have to feel like they're doomed to be bad at math in 7th grade. And that experience can change. And the important thing is, you may have struggled last year, but this year's a new year. I mean, that whole idea that you can just sort of pick up and make a whole new experience out of it is really critical to turning these kids around sometimes.
Absolutely. I'm married to a math teacher. My wife teaches high school mathematics. So I hear, when she comes home, the kids, they struggle. And my philosophy is, well, they may not be strong at math now, but the key word is yet. I'm not strong at math yet. Okay, I haven't gotten to the point yet where I have mastery, but I'm ready to work at it. And so that's something where I encourage with the staff. If a kid is ever saying, well, I don't get this. No, you don't get this yet.
You don't get it yet.
There are still opportunities for us to learn and grow together. And so I tell parents when I meet them at orientation, as your principal, I'm not concerned if your child is a straight A student. Okay, my concern is, are they growing? Okay, are they growing from the time that they come to us in 6th grade to the time that they leave us in 8th grade? Because part of my responsibility is to prepare them for high school, but beyond that. And so if they don't come in as a strong math student, doesn't mean that they're not going to be. Our job is to help them learn how to learn. Sometimes there's a learned behavior and there's learning behavior, right? The learned behavior, this is what they've experienced their whole life. Maybe they haven't been strong in reading or strong in something else, but that doesn't mean that you can't be. And so it's unlearning what they've learned and learning how to learn and how to think, because thinking is transferable. Whether you're thinking in reading or you're thinking in math, thinking is a transferable skill.
That's important.
That you need to be able to do no matter what grade level you're in, no matter where you are.
Right.
Now, before the program, you mentioned at least one of the changes that you can see at the school since 6 years ago, let's say, is that you have maker spaces that you've created. Could talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Our media specialist, Ms. Lupino, she's fantastic. She's created an area in our media center. When I asked her, I hired her 4 years ago now. I said, we need to transform the media center because it really needs to become the hub of our school. As great as it is that the media center is where the books are, Okay, kids weren't necessarily reading. You know, they were interested in other things, and we wanted to make it a place where kids really came to learn and to grow. And so we created a whole space where kids come in and they invent stuff. They build things, they create, they break things down. I have students taking apart computers, putting them back together, making video games, doing challenges. And you have students that may not have been the most connected kids in the school, but they need that hands-on learning. You know, and so going there for 7:30 in the morning and working for 45 minutes, going in on their lunch periods, going in after school, it really created an atmosphere for these students where they were like, I have kids that are literally running into school. Is the library open? You know, and so that's fantastic. And then what happened from there is the kids would talk to their teachers and say, hey, we're doing this in the media center, and now you have teachers going down to the media center to find out what's going on.
Right.
And in an English class, they're learning, they were doing Greek mythology, and they created a whole makerspace activity on Greek mythology. And I have students describing, they're making traps for one of the Greek gods that they were making. I mean, that's what you want, right? You want to bring learning to life and make it a dynamic environment for the student.
Yeah, it's actually such an important point because it's obviously people think about technology and math but it's also about the arts and let's say reading skills and English language skills too. It's just clear thinking skills are a big part of this.
At a middle school level, you have to educate the whole child, right? It can't just be about STEM, right? The acronym needs to really be STEAM, and you really need to incorporate the arts. We have a strong music program. We have a strong arts program. Because we value that as a community. You know, every student takes music. Every student takes art. You know, there's no exception because middle school kids, they don't know who they're going to be yet. You know, and so it's giving them the experience that they need so that when they get to high school, then they can choose. You know, they can then pick a path that they want to go down to get ready for college.
And while we're on that subject, you mentioned too that before you were a principal at Pequannock, you were a vice principal at a high school.
I was the vice principal in town at the high school.
Okay, and what did you learn from that experience about what you needed to change in middle school?
I learned a lot. I was the vice principal of academic affairs, so I was involved in a lot of curriculum work. I was involved in a lot of PD, and we were experiencing, you know, I don't want to say it was a disconnect, but there were some gaps that the students were coming to through no fault of anyone. You know, it was just making that transition to high school, and it was really kind of that resilience piece. You know, because students wanted the information. I just want the A, right? I may not. I'll work for it, but you know, can I really get the A? And what it really came down to is at the younger levels, teaching them about that resilience and about that grit. That Angela Duckworth, if you've watched the TED Talk on grit, it's phenomenal. You know, it's that grit that it takes to really learn, because it's a journey, right? We can't just. I don't tell kids we don't give grades. You earn them. You know, this is a representation of your mastery of a topic, and you want to do the best that you possibly can. So it was working when I got to PV. I said to the teachers, I said, we are going to build resilient learners. That's our goal. We're gonna challenge our students as hard as we possibly can. And they were saying to me, you know, Rich, they're 11, 12, 13 years old. They're capable.
Right.
They are. I mean,
all the kids need to hear is, I believe in you. That's it.
Right.
You know, if they know that you're there for them, and I've said it, you know, a couple times now, if they know that you're there for them at this age, you have them. You know, and you can take them to places where they never knew they could go. And that's the true joy of what I do as a principal. It's watching those kids that came into 6th grade. You know, they were scared, they were nervous, and as 8th graders, they know who they are, they know where they want to go, and they know what they want to do.
So you just don't sit in an office, you're actually engaged in the school and classrooms and everything?
Yeah, you have to be. I very rarely spend time in my office. My secretary gets mad at me. She's like, where are you today? And I'm out and about. I want the students to see me as a learner, not just a teacher. You know, I still consider myself a teacher. Most people are, what do you do? Well, I'm a principal, but I'm also a teacher because it's never left my blood. I come from a family of educators. My parents were administrators and teachers. My brother's an assistant principal. So it's what we do, and I do it 24/7. I live in the community where I work. So the kids see me as a Little League coach and all of those different things. So you know, it's an important aspect of that.
And it's not just the teachers that this cultural change affects. It's also the guidance counselors.
Everybody.
I mean, talk a little bit about the staff in general and how they rally around this kind of thing.
My guidance team is just phenomenal. Terry Prashak and Lindsay Toth. I don't ever have to ask them to do anything. They're always 2 steps ahead of me. You know, when they run reports all the time to see how students are doing. They'll bring them down. They talk with them. They come up with, they call it steps to success. and they let the students chart the information. Hey, let's set goals for yourself. Where do you want to be in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in a month? You know, and they talk to their kids about what they're learning. You know,
And they never say to a kid, gee, you're just not cut out for this.
what are you curious about?
Okay.
You know, that's a question that I have. What are you curious about? What do you want to know? And about your classes, about anything, because we want that curiosity mindset to live in them,
Right.
so that's what they're thinking about. What can I do next?
So what are you curious about is a different kind of a question from what are you good at? Because what you're curious at could be could be something you're not good at yet, but will be if you just sort of follow that.
Absolutely.
That's where you capture that energy and try to use it. I think that is so powerful.
At this age level, a lot of students struggle with getting up and speaking in front of their peers.
Sure.
You know, and so what are you curious about? It could be a topic. I have a student who's interested in cars. Right? He was scared to talk about his social studies lesson, but he wanted to talk about cars. So the teacher gave him an opportunity to research cars in one of the in World War II, I believe it was. You know, and he went out there and he gave a presentation that he would have never done.
Really?
You know, because he just didn't like speaking in front of people.
Right.
And he
But
got
he
up
was talking
there.
about something he was passionate about, and that helped.
And as a 7th grader, when you have that defining moment, that leads you on. And now he's one of our big helpers. We're building a school garden, and so he's one of the. He came up to me and said, you know, can I get involved in this? And we're going to do a presentation at the Board of Education meeting. He's going to be there, you know, and he's a kid that might not have ever had the opportunity to do something like that.
Wow, that's great.
You know, and I credit the teachers for that because they know what their strengths are with their kids. They know what they're passionate about. And that's really the key to this whole success.
That is very
that
key.
relationship piece.
Okay, so negative behavior in middle school that you hear about, things like vandalism and bullying, that kind of thing. It sounds to me like this is a solution for those problems too. Maybe you can explore that with us a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that it never happens, but I think, you know, when students feel comfortable with each other, and there's less of the, hey, he said, she said, or not knowing who that person is. You know, you create the climate in the classroom where everybody gets to know each other. So when they move to class, there's expectations of behavior, you know, that we have set in place. It's that team mindset that we have. You know, it's really, and if it were to happen, we address it right away.
Right.
You know, we have our peer leaders get involved. We have our guidance staff get involved. We never sit and wait on anything. You know, it's always making sure that we address it right away.
That's great. And the students too, I guess they're involved in policing each other, let's say, and certainly themselves.
Yeah.
With respect to...
We have a principals advisory committee. They came to me and said, you know, Mr. Hayzler, could we have a program on digital citizenship? I think it's something that we really need. Like, absolutely.
Okay.
So I brought in Sergeant Tom Rich from the Summit Police Department, gave a speech on digital citizenship. We did that for them, and then also the parents. And then you have students that are coming to us the next day or a week later. And they're saying, "Wow, I really learned a lot. It's changed the way that I'm thinking about communication and, you know, communicating with my peers."
Which is another great subject, parents. You mentioned relationships as a big aspect of this culture that you're trying to create.
Yeah.
Parents, talk about how you relate to parents and how that's evolved over the last 6 years.
It was a big shift with parents, you know, because parents, everybody wants to have their child make the honor roll and be successful, and we want that for them too, you know. But when they get a grade that might not represent, we had to make a shift in how we were grading and assessing, and so we wanted to make sure that we were assessing the proper things, and so when a grade comes out and they had an A in English in 6th grade, but then they have maybe a C, it can be a difficult conversation to have with parents because they don't understand the why. And so it's really sitting down and educating the parent. And what a culture of innovation and curiosity looks like. You know, this is what learning is. And so it's sitting down, and so we had parent programs at night where we would have teachers come in or our supervisors, and we would actually do lessons with them and say, hey, this is an activity. I do it a lot in my home and school association meetings. I introduce different apps and things that we're using so that the parents can see what the learning is. You know, schools can't live in isolation.
Right.
If you're going to be successful as a school, you have to let the community see what you do.
Yeah.
I opened up Twitter, so we have a Twitter handle. I'm posting all the time so that the community can see what we're doing.
Right.
I want to be very transparent with it because, you know, when you're talking about failure and taking risks, well, I'm afraid that my child isn't going to do well. Well, they will. They will. They have to
do well. And you've got to be patient.
They have to
You've got
take the
have a certain amount
chance.
of
You
faith
have
in
to
that.
give them the opportunity.
That's you know, it's important because in addition to innovation and curiosity, you've got to be honest, but you also have to be caring.
Right.
So it's honest but never cruel, and never really judgmental in the sense that you rule anything out.
Right.
It's just, honestly, you didn't do all that well in this, but you get another chance. And it sounds like that's a really important part of your value proposition.
It is, and I think it holds true to the teacher as well, because the observation process is something that, you know, it can be a bone of contention, right? It's a difficult thing, especially when a teacher's assigned a number and their evaluation is based on it. I look at the evaluation process as an opportunity for professional growth. And so when I go in and I do walkthroughs every day, I'm in classes every day, and then you have the conversations with the teacher. What are things we could work on? It's always about how we can do what's best for the learner, you know, and that's really the question that we want to ask. What can we do best for the learner in that particular classroom?
And you also
setting?
you encourage continual improvement.
Always,
that's
you
very
know,
important.
always continuing the process long beyond the formal observation that may
Right.
take place.
That's great.
It's never about a number,
No.
right? It's always about how we can improve our teaching and learning for kids.
Rich, we're coming up on that part of our program where you get to tell everybody in your camera how to reach you if they have questions, and I'm sure a number of people probably do. So go ahead and look in your camera and tell everybody.
All right. First of all, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to be here today on DisruptEDtv. You can find me at Rich Hayzler. That's RichHayzler on Twitter. And you can also follow me on my website, richardhayzler.weebly.com. I'm always posting new things. And look for us at Pequannock Valley School. We're at PV Panther Pride. And anytime you need to reach out, I'm always willing to help. Always do what's best for kids. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the program, Rich. You're a terrific
lot.
guest.
Thank you, Rich.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks to all of you for joining us on this episode of DisruptEDtv. My name is Al Cini,
I'm still Joe Osamendi.
and we'll look forward to seeing you again in a future episode.